Hello, everyone. This is Tim Sarrantonio, continuing as your MC for the Dream Big Conference. We're pretty excited to actually have this pre-recorded session for you folks, so we can really kind of trick things out for you, and then also have this as an immediate takeaway for you today in terms of watching it immediately from the conference. The recording is going to be available for you. So we're joined by TJ Bowen of the Civicor team for community giving and fundraising technology trends. TJ, welcome. And why don't you tell the crowd a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my background started with nonprofit work because, like most people in the social sector, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life and realized that it was just important for me to be involved in efforts that make a better world for people. And I quickly came to realize that a lot of the people who are doing that are working at nonprofits. So what better way? And I was already involved working with nonprofits. So that's where my background is. That's where my passion is. But then about 8 years ago, I had the good fortune of getting a job at Civicor, which is now under the Neon One ecosystem, building technology solutions for the social sector. And it's really a dream come true because I've always loved technology and what it can do in general. It has this kind of magical science fiction appeal to it, but I also have a passion for the social sector. So being able to be in a space between those two has been really fulfilling. The last few years I've been involved with product development at Civicor, and we're really excited with the momentum that we have around our giving product right now.
So and because of that history, you've kind of been able to keep your hand on the pulse, so to speak, of what's going on when it comes to what Giving Day hosts are wanting, needing, and finding effective, especially given what we're going through today. I think this is a pretty pertinent conversation with kind of immediate relief campaigns and things of that nature versus kind of just where we're trending. Before we get into actually a little bit of unpacking that in detail, what are you, when you're talking to clients, when you're talking to organizations, what are the things that they're most concerned about in this environment right now, as well as just even before all of this happened? Maybe if we go back in time to 2019 a little bit, what were you hearing that is the same and hasn't changed, if anything, has been amplified by the current environment in terms of what they're concerned about?
Great. Well, as with a lot of, most of you are likely hearing, online fundraising, it's very clear is more important than ever. Both with it's just a dual effect. It's COVID with social distancing and also with the economic effects going on. Nonprofits need money. They're small businesses often that are struggling deeply. And so online fundraising is really emerging to the top. The interesting thing about community giving and community gives days is that they were essentially born out of the last recession. So we're really well positioned in our clients around the country to, I don't want to say take advantage of this time, but it's really a platform that is designed to help nonprofits in a community build capacity and fundraise online. So that's been more of the same in a lot of ways. With COVID, it's crazy because we were basically putting the polishing touches on the Spring Gives Day solutions, and then all of a sudden, COVID became very real to everybody.
Yeah, and so I think we've already had one day that I know that we're going to be talking about live as well, but in terms of do you want to unpack a little bit about what happened in one of the first days that you've seen in terms of the difference between this year and last year in both? Maybe it might be good to hear from the technology that Arizona, we're going to focus on Arizona, gives. What did they employ that was unique to this situation, as well as what did they see in terms of comparing to last year, and how also they're thinking about moving forward as well?
Sure. Well, Arizona really hit it out of the park, and they had a lot of things going for them anyway coming into this year. And then they also did all the right things leading up to their giving event and almost doubled the totals from last year. with Arizona and really everybody involved, what we were really focusing on early on was just really clear, consistent, and relevant communication, both internally and Tim, you helped a ton internally for the Civil Corps teams and the GivesDay project managers, and also externally. So we're now, going into our 4th weekly call with our giving clients. We were working to create a space for them to communicate and share resources and learnings. And so just at a high level, the messaging changes were, extend nonprofit registration longer. So nonprofits who were struggling or having to all of a sudden work from home had a little bit more time to register. Starting, if possible, early giving sooner, because the funding needs were urgent, and they were, it was just ASAP, we need to have money flowing in. So getting those campaigns open. And then Arizona had an interesting take on it. They opened up gamification, so the leaderboards and the ticker and other aspects of gamification were open for early giving for the first time, which it's a bit anecdotal at this point, but we think that played into the amount of early giving that they received this year. They just hit it out of the park, and we think it drove a lot of hype for their event. And then keeping donations open after the event. So with Arizona, over 4% of their funds have been raised after their event. So usually GivesDays turn off at midnight. And so Arizona decided to keep their event open longer so donors can keep donating. And they're going to keep it open at least until, I believe, the 30th. And the money just keeps coming in for the nonprofits.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I know that in preparation for the presentation, we kind of wanted to group things in focus types of technology. So what's the first area that we want to concentrate on in terms of a trend that we're going to see in 2020 and beyond?
Just kind of the merging of online fundraising being more important than ever. And then also, I call it COVID, but that's essentially to say that we're in a rapid, iterative and unpredictable environment. So it's hard to predict where we'll be in a month, 2 months, 18 months. So I'll talk about, what we've done so far and what we're doing to keep our ear to the ground and stay nimble going forward, just to be rapid in our response and proactive in serving our clients.
I think that's an interesting point because, I've seen a lot of economic analysis in terms of there's going to be a surge and then a slump, a surge of initial giving, then a little bit of a slump, and then it's going to come back a bit. But the analysis that I've seen is mainly around not only previous economic impacts, but also disaster fundraising. And so what I think is interesting when seen through the lens of giving events is that you haven't really seen that, like, dare I say it, pivoting need very quickly, right? It's like, we're going to have our GivesDay, this is going to be the event, and here we go. But being able to rapidly deploy for communities, like, this is something that the Red Cross has been doing for years, right? It's like, text this to help, the hurricane victims. But never have I seen something where it could be quickly mobilized for hundreds, thousands of nonprofits at one time in a community. And I think that's an interesting model that I hope we can learn from here and be able to embrace the core concepts there. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about what Civil Corps is doing to prepare for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's partnership opportunities that are flying all over the place. It's on the difficult side, it's a lot of overlapping events and fundraising efforts going on from local governments, city, state, fundraising, and also a ton of organizations jumping in to help nonprofits. So there's all this overlapping philanthropic activity, but within that overlap, there's opportunity to combine efforts. And these GivesDay platforms are community-driven assets. And so when the partnerships emerge, they can be very powerful. And I think that the best example that I've seen so far is with Community Foundation of Texas. They've teamed up with the United Way of Metropolitan Dallas and the Dallas Cowboys to co-sponsor an event on their platform on May 5th. And it was pretty amazing because they were originally planning their event to run in late April. And then we caught wind of Giving Tuesday Now, And they were super nimble and adjusted and adapted to move it to that date. And we think it's going to really hit it out of the park there because of this really innovative partnership that they have.
The collaboration is the one that I'm most interested in, because when I've even been talking with our partners at the National Council of Nonprofits, they were fascinated and very encouraged to hear that campaign in particular, because they think it's very important for institutions to kind of zero in on efficient deployment of these types of big resources. So it's really stellar example of where we need to go as an industry. So I'm pretty excited about that day in particular.
Yeah, it's really amazing what they've done. And all of our clients are really jumping to make modifications that ordinarily would take months, but they're doing in weeks, if not days or hours. So it's really amazing to see what's going on, and it's inspiring. And we're working to make sure that we can keep supporting those efforts. And then the last theme is just the perennial theme of empowering quality online fund development, but it's just kind of hyper accelerated at this time. And so, a lot of our clients are in the business of capacity building in their communities. So we work to focus on making sure that the nonprofits on the platform are supported in fund development, and also the supporters, whether business funders, corporations, sports teams, and of course the donors and volunteers can be engaged with the platform, and the platform can be used to really amplify the support across the community.
That's great. So how about we dive in and check out some of the things that you're seeing in a kind of a show and tell style for folks, because I know I love the talking head thing, but it's also really good to actually see what organizations are doing and the types of technology that they're employing to address the things that we're all talking about.
Sure. All right.
So TJ, the first area that we want to dive in, we're looking at Arizona. We're just talking about Arizona. Why don't you walk us through some of the things that they did that really kind of help stand out when it comes to their day being such a success this year?
Sure. So just some things that you notice when you look at their homepage. There's this big orange banner that's just saying, hey, this is a big deal. We're taking donations, and they relabeled this banner to note that they're still taking donations through April 30th. Coming into their event, they had a different message, but it's essentially bringing drama and urgency that's very real to this fundraising effort. Some other things that we'll touch on later, just to point out though, because we'll want to tie things together, is they have a volunteer pledge note. So you notice over 2,000 volunteers have pledged almost 80,000 hours. Perfect tie-in also to the Giving Tuesday efforts, because Giving Tuesday as a movement has really brought out the idea that it's not just money, there's also engagement of time and talent as well. Then also this relief fund total we'll talk about in a little bit. They raised almost 150,000 for a relief fund that they spun up. And there's also this prominent link to the relief fund page. But this is all kind of framed literally on the page with this relief banner that I would say at this point about half of our clients are utilizing. Some of our clients have chosen not to. So it's really optional, but it could be used for good effect. The second type of relief banner is really under the nonprofits. So when you go in to a nonprofit's record, some of them have relief banners, and this is actually an example of one that doesn't. So they're welcome to not have it. In Arizona, about 100 nonprofits decided to have the COVID relief banner on their nonprofit profile page. I'll show you an example of in Omaha Gives, it's just a different color. It's purple instead of orange, but it really brings a prominent, urgent, dramatic appeal that relates to COVID and the emergency that we're in. And in this case, it's a mentoring organization talking about how they're adapting and the need for them in this time.
So the organization themselves could actually put the message in here in terms of what they're doing there?
Exactly. And it was amazing how fast this went, because as we were talking earlier, I mean, our clients typically run out a program that is a 9-month or at least a 6-month program, and especially around orienting nonprofits to how everything works. In this case, nonprofits got access to this functionality and entered their message and got everything set up just in a matter of days. Yeah, they have full control over the message that they post.
And I think that's kind of key in general, right? Is that repetition of messaging really coupled with the urgency that a giving event comes with, it can be very, very effective as well. So this is pretty cool to see in action in terms of even them talking about, what they're doing to actually keep their mission going. Because a lot of nonprofits, I think, in particular, it's either one of two things. They either have dove in and have something like this to be able to say, this is why we exist, this is why it's so important, or they froze and they're not sure what to do. And the reality is that of all the times, this is when you should be fundraising and telling people why you need to exist. So this is a great example of that.
Exactly, and it really facilitates that conversation between our clients at the organizing level, hosting the event, and the nonprofits. The message is, hey, this is the time to step up as soon as possible to be communicating to your supporters what the need is and what the appeal is. Mm-hmm. And by the way, there's this alert banner you can fill out to really hone in that message.
So TJ, we talked about the messaging side of things when it comes to a rapid response campaign, but what does that look like for when the actual donor is saying, you know what, I want to do something, I want to show my support around this specific campaign, what does that look like?
Great. So a lot of our clients have relief funds, whether to the foundation or the event host, and they're being used in a variety of different ways, but this is happening simultaneously with the giving event. So one way that a handful of our clients have adapted is to use what we've called the stretch fund to raise money for their emergency relief fund that they distribute to nonprofits. In the case of Arizona, which is what we see on screen, they have chosen to distribute their emergency relief fund evenly among all Gives Day participants. Other relief funds function in different ways. But what's interesting is that this functionality has been around for a few years. So I think one of the first clients to utilize this was NOLA with the New Orleans Gives Day. They have a lanyap fund. And so it's basically a donor comes in, they have a cart, so with one or more donations. So this donor already has a gift to the Northern Arizona Pioneers Historical Society. And this is an appeal for essentially a tip. Would you like to add more to your fund today to give to this relief fund effort? So the main change is if they didn't have this this fund up, then we added it. But some of our clients already had something, and they changed the messaging. And so I'll just go ahead and demonstrate the functionality. So now you see $50 for the relief fund, and then they can continue checking out.
And what's interesting is I've been getting a little obsessive with, let's see if I have it handy here. TJ, I know we've talked about this book, Outcomes Over Output. And really the idea there is what simple changes, you don't have to overhaul the technology, right? It can be as simple as like you don't need to build new things. You can leverage tweaks to your existing giving event platform to get the desired results. That's the fascinating thing, is that you're not building anything new there.
Absolutely.
You're just leveraging things to change the behavior of the donor, and simple things like that obviously work. So absolutely. I think that's a great takeaway there.
Yeah, and to that point, we did some analysis last year on which asks for the relief fund, or the stretch fund is what we typically call it, resonate the most. So is it a $1, is it a $5, is it 50 or 100, and what kind of values in that fund ask, or the appeal, generate the most money. So we did some analysis across different sites that we run, and now we can recommend the ideal appeal in terms of the levels of dollars.
Amazing.
The other cool thing about the relief fund is that it totals on the homepage. So there's this secondary total that we were able to provide. And so in the case of Arizona, they raised almost $150,000 for their fund that they have chosen to distribute evenly.
So TJ, one of the other things that's interesting is just the general discussion around digital fundraising, and there's a lot of discussion, especially around live stream fundraising. So the idea of somebody, putting on, a YouTube live, right? We're hearing discussions around auctioneers. We're hearing discussions of, the traditional gamer stuff. We have our partners at Tiltify, for instance, that do it for a lot of different things, but we've not really seen that extended to the giving event space. But, how are you folks approaching it? Because I know that there's been some expediency because of how effective it is in this environment that we're living in, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great example of, tweaking the use of existing functionality. So we've always had the capacity for YouTube Live to be posted on a fundraiser page, a peer-to-peer fundraiser page. So in North Texas's system, they're called fundraisers to make it fun. And because they have this Dallas Cowboys partnership going on right now, they are working with the team to have players and perhaps even some ex-players build fundraising campaigns and fill out a page. And so this is just a test page we have right now because they haven't launched their system yet. That goes live tomorrow. But what we anticipate is, a lot of fundraising pages with some videos, and they may be pre-recorded, but the video link can also be a live stream. And we've added functionality where the user can say the date and time that they're going to have their live stream. And users can find the live stream events, go to the page. Well, the hope is that at least one of the Dallas Cowboys players will set up a live stream and do something creative and entertaining on a live stream. Ideally, a quarterback is throwing a ball at a target, but something entertaining to really drive hype and excitement around the Gives Day on the 5th.
I love the scheduling piece too, because our partners at Tiltify talk about how you need to build anticipation for the stream itself. You can't just throw things out there. And so the fact that you can pre-schedule it and go, this is when we're going to have it, it builds that anticipation and helps the stream's engagement. So that's really, really useful for organizations. Love it. Love it. Can't wait to see what they do. Hopefully they get Troy Aikman or something to
Me too.
Really rock it.
Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith.
Yeah. So TJ, I know another item that we're seeing in terms of trends is just giving better ways to take the burden off of the event host's plate when it comes to nonprofits hitting certain dates. They gotta, hit the registration. They should be filling out their profile. A lot of this takes a lot of work for an organization to support their nonprofits who are using the platform. So what are some things that you're seeing that organizations are employing to really address those communication dates and other types of key benchmarks that somebody should be hitting?
Great. Yeah, and this is a major pain point for our clients, the ability to be able to effectively communicate to nonprofits so the nonprofits hear and understand what they're saying. Knowing that the nonprofit professionals are often, almost always wearing multiple hats. They're not just the fundraiser. They're also doing all these other things. So how can you get information distributed well and really taken to heart? So there's kind of two sides to it. One, we did a revamping of a bunch of auto emails that go out to promote different dates and milestones. And the second is a revamped dashboard for our clients. When we unveiled this in the fall, Sacramento ran a training for their nonprofits back in October. And on their social, some nonprofits were taking screenshots and talking about how amazing it is and how great it looks because the widgets are fun. We wanted to make the widget fun because then you remember the dates. So you can see, profile training, you click on it and there's more information, and these can be linked as well. So you can see this detail link goes to more information for the nonprofit. And over time, the information just keeps rolling forward as the dates pass. So it's been really effective for our clients in terms of communicating effectively to the participating nonprofits.
That's really great. So TJ, besides organizations hitting certain milestones, they also have and should be setting goals for what they want supporters to hit, what they want their organization to hit, things of that nature. So what are you seeing in terms of organizations employing that, and why is it so important for them to actually set goals for their own organization as well?
Great. This fits right smack dab in the bucket of boosting capacity and building capacity for nonprofits in your community. So at this point, the functionality is an experiment. We don't have data yet because we just rolled this out. But it's very important, as you all know, to set goals around fundraising. And then you can analyze, how are you doing against those goals? Are you achieving them? If you are, let's set new goals. If you're not, why aren't you achieving them? What's going on? And that kind of critical thought around why you're achieving goals or not is what a lot of our clients are really driving in their communities so they can boost capacity around fund development. So the 4 that we have started an experiment around are the event goal progress. So overall, what's your goal? And so this one has a goal of 1,000. We're assuming that early giving has already started, and they've received $500 towards that goal. So they're about halfway there. With matching funds secured, most of our clients allow nonprofits to enter the amount of matching funds that they have secured, and then it displays on the leaderboard. They're able to update that goal and also the match amount. Scheduled donation progress. This is another key driver around success for nonprofits on a Gives Day. If they're able to have early giving successful, then typically they'll achieve their overall goal, the better they do early on. So they're able to have a goal around how well they do up to the event. And then the last indicator that we have as a top one is peer-to-peer donation progress. So how many dollars raised and how many pages have been created. So there's a goal, and then once those open up, the totals are displayed for the nonprofits to see. So that's the current layout. The widgets don't display if our clients don't have the functionality, although more and more of our clients are rolling with all matching and peer-to-peer as well, along with early giving. The exciting thing for me, at least, as a data nerd at heart, is after this year. So after this year, we'll have a bunch of data around nonprofits who set goals versus didn't set goals, nonprofits who achieved their goal versus didn't, and how well did they do this year compared to last year. And so we'll be able to learn some insight from the data that we're capturing, and then be able to share it with our clients. I'm really excited to be able to do that.
Because a lot of it comes down to what things are effective that we can tell organizations, this is important that you do this. This is going to help you raise more money. And a lot of times goal setting, it should just be pretty straightforward. So it's an important thing that can also help calculate other key performance indicators that they should be paying attention to as well.
Exactly. So the other really exciting product feature rollout, and for me, this is the most exciting one of the year so far, is the Neon Raise integration. So what we have learned and studied over the last few years is that many of the nonprofits that participate in Gives Days are still using spreadsheets around the year to manage their donation information. And as we all know, spreadsheets and the dances we do with spreadsheets don't provide a whole lot of insight into performance. And they're also extremely cumbersome, they're annoying, and they're just not effective or for results, and also for time saving. So we have integrated with Neon Raise, and I'll hand it over to Tim to talk more about what Raise is in general, and then I'll demo the integration.
Yeah, and Neon Raise is a platform that was designed to address being able to spin up a digital campaign quickly and with no setup costs. So Neon Raise doesn't have any monthly fee. It doesn't have any setup fee. You literally can just turn it on as an organization in just a few moments. So what we're seeing here is the actual Neon Raise system. You can access it right from your Civicor giving event. And what's powerful about this is that it also can preload the data from the Gives Day itself. We are even working with Giving Tuesday to preload campaigns that relate to that too. So the idea of rapid response and year-round fundraising is pretty important here. So what we're looking at right now is just all the donations that were made in a giving event. Preloaded, all you have to do is hit a button and it's going to bring you right over. But what's fascinating here is that we want to empower organizations with a lot more drilled down understanding for retention. Across the industry, what we're seeing is that first-time donor retention is in the low 20s. And so especially when a giving event is a really great opportunity to acquire a donor at a fraction of the cost that your organization as an individual nonprofit might typically have to pay for that. Because the data shows that acquiring a donor to get $1 actually costs you $1.25. So you have to think about, if you don't retain that donor, then you've lost money. But if you actually retain that person, then here you go. So looking at it, you actually can get the donor information. You can not have to download that into a spreadsheet and then load it into something else. But really what's key here is, if we scroll down a tiny bit, we've preloaded some of the most important key performance indicators for organizations as an individual to just review. Things like retention, things like new donors versus retained donors, rate of growth in giving and donors, looking pretty bad this year, only because it's the first year that they may be using it. So it's like, to TJ's point, the more data that goes into this, we can then also analyze donor behavior. So really, this is a nice bridge into a larger giving strategy that a nonprofit should be employing for digital gifts. And then the vision is that if organizations need to grow into something bigger, then we have options for that in our ecosystem. The last one that I want to talk about, well, actually two here, is the donation forms themselves. One of the things that we have heard of is that it's great that organizations can leverage the power of a giving platform, but some things that they actually give up a bit are the branding, right? And so actually, if you click on Giving Tuesday Now, for instance, a nonprofit would be able to actually design their own Giving Tuesday Now campaign. This is what we're working with on with the Giving Tuesday folks for branding optimization. But if a nonprofit, if you want to click that donation URL, TJ, an organization would be able to load their own brand, their own colors, their own campaigns, and have a lot more power over the design of the form itself. And that's kind of another thing that we've heard, is that using the platform for a giving event on the day and the lead up is great, but once they get months away from that and they have their own messaging that they want to do, or maybe the day isn't actually allowing giving on a year-round basis, what are they going to do? And especially if they're a small nonprofit, we don't want them to have to worry about using a PayPal button on a website or something like that. We want to give them more control over that. Finally, the reporting is going to be key here too, because a lot of times when you're looking at platforms for digital fundraising, the reporting is going to be kind of light when it comes to understanding donor behavior. It's going to be very transactional in nature. And what we want to do is help project out growth and sustainability and retention for organizations. So that's what's pretty exciting here. Even something like the revenue projections report, an organization could actually plug in and say, look, I'm expecting that we want to try to grow 5% over the course of the year. Let's go ahead and see what's going to happen here and kind of chart that out. So Neon Raise is a really exciting extension to the overall Neon One ecosystem. And there's a lot more that we're planning with this. But this is something that it's really nice because we could just turn it on. We're not actually charging for enabling this, because the whole idea is capacity building. So one of the other things that's important, TJ, from a trend standpoint, is also understanding giving behavior and how donors want to give. The consistent drumbeat that we hear from the Neon One consultant ecosystem is meet donors where they want to be. A lot of times giving platforms either for days or just in general are not going to have a lot of flexibility when it comes to all the different ways that donors want to give. But what have we been seeing from a trend standpoint besides, I want to give with my credit card, right? Because a lot of people can do that, but especially more sophisticated donors with higher net worth might be using different things such as a donor advised fund, which we're seeing really kind of explode in terms of the offering there. So how are we addressing that because it's merging two different trends when you look at it from growth in the industry? So what are you seeing in terms of how organizations are employing and addressing donor advised funds?
Great. So the first level is how to make a good donor experience for fund holders at your organization or maybe a close partner. And with that, the client that we've had that's really driven this over the years is Callie and her team at Omaha Gives. They set up one of our earliest versions, if not the earliest version of this. And on the checkout, so you can see on the screen, I have one donation for $100. There's the stretch fund idea that I was talking about earlier. And there's different options. One of them is to donate with your OCF fund. And so the fund holders are actually alerted that on the Gives Day, they have this button they can use. And when you click the button, they can fill out the form, first name, email, fund name, fund ID, and submit. And the Omaha Gives team receives on their back end an interface where all of the donor advised fund gifts, the distribution pledges essentially are coming in during the day, and they're able to manually check the balance of the fund and coordinate with their finance team to allow for donations during their giving event at scale. So they run hundreds of donations every year on their day. They're one of the largest days in the country, and they've been able to readily scale donor advised fund participation with their event. It is somewhat of a manual process still, but there's definitely a trend in this direction even prior to the tax legislation. Post tax legislation, where doubling up on, every other year on a DAF to take advantage of the different charitable breaks has further accelerated the trend towards DAFs. Plus, our clients often want to serve these donors very well through the year to develop that relationship. So having a really good integration with donor advised fund distribution for the Gives Day has been and will continue to be more and more important. So that's the current functionality. I'm really excited to let you all know that we're working with a group of our clients to dream big around donor advised funds in the coming year. So over the next couple months, we'll be working to get ideas. Really the gold standard is an integration where the fund holder is able to see their balance on the Gives Day site and know what they're able to give in real time, and then run it, and the information is then able to go directly into the fund system. So that's where we're aiming. It may take a while to get to that direction, but we're really looking to amplify the experience for fund holders on our platform.
I think we're going to continue to see more and more cross integrations of systems too. I think a lot of times, especially when you get to the more sophisticated days, or especially something run by a community foundation that has their own DAFs themselves, bridging that gap is key to the overall donor experience too.
Exactly.
So that's really, really encouraging to hear.
Yeah, really exciting, and ideas and creativity abound because we can really bring in the data of who is this fund holder given to in the past, what are their profiles like. We can pull in information from other systems on how the nonprofits are making an impact in the community as well. So really looking at that fund holder experience and optimizing it so they can up their ability to be a good philanthropist in the community.
Well, and especially once the more you learn about a donor, either when you're doing it in a personal ask situation, or especially when you start to overlay that with the potential for something like artificial intelligence to be employed against that to, recommend certain organizations and types of things. I would not be surprised if we see that eventually, as just kind of part of the day when you get down
Absolutely.
to it.
Yeah, and that's an underlying trend that is definitely taking off, which is the data of these events as being massive assets for our clients. And what can you do with that data to make better experiences and improve philanthropy and capacity building?
So TJ, kind of some of the final trends that we want to focus on today are going to be around the donor experience itself. And again, kind of going into the different ways that people want to give and show their support. So what other types of technology are we seeing deployed for giving events when it comes to the donor experience itself?
Great. Well, this one relates to both data and also donor retention. So a few of our clients really led and pushed by North Texas Gives, our friends at Communities Foundation of Texas, want to be able to send emails out to their donors leading up to their event, especially when early giving starts, to say, hey, you gave to these organizations last year, click this button, and when they click the button, they'll just appear in the cart that they had last year, which might have 3, 4, 5 nonprofits set up to donate. And we're looking into functionality that would allow them to quickly increase their donation by 10, 20, 50, 100%, and otherwise quickly edit the cart. And then they can quickly be on their way. So it's essentially a repeat your donation from last year to expedite giving, leverage the data, and also cut down on attrition.
Wow, that's really fascinating. And I think preloading, a lot of times, I'll be honest, I go to giving events randomly because I work for Neon One, and I see that you folks are doing a day, and I've gone to NOLA and St. Louis and all these other days and have given. And I'm going to be honestly a little hard pressed to remember who I honestly gave to, because I was just kind of randomly choosing some nonprofits. And I don't think I'm the typical profile for that. But at the very least, like remembering what you gave, who you gave to, those types of things is going to really help streamline. It's just almost as close to a one-click donation for multiple organizations as possible. It's fascinating.
Exactly. So the other aspect of our platform that we've had for years, but is starting to be leveraged more and more, is the giving e-card. So Arizona employed this a while back, and you can see on this very checkout, you can continue, but you can also give through purchasing an e-card for other people. So it's great to get kids involved who don't necessarily have a credit card or means to give. But it's also a great birthday present to give to someone you know and care about. And maybe you don't want to give a material gift, but you're able to purchase $100 or more or less for them to get onto the site and choose nonprofits that they'd like to donate to. So it's a way that people can involve their friends and really amplify the giving. With Arizona, one of their major partners, First Bank, purchased, I believe it was $100,000 worth of e-cards to give out to their customers as part of some promotion, but it also obviously promoted the day. We have yet to unpack that and how much it might have contributed to the success of their day, but that was a really great way of leveraging the e-card functionality.
I think that hits on the community spirit that giving events represent, and citing the fact that there was a corporate partner. That's a really good way that you can get corporate partners to feel really involved, as well as throw down some cash.
Yep.
So that's
Absolutely.
a really, really cool way to approach it.
All right.
Right.
I think that's pretty much it.
So TJ, we covered a lot of different things when it comes to trends in the industry. We covered what organizations are seeing. We're covering what the nonprofits are seeing, the donors are seeing. In general, though, if we were going to think, what is giving events, what is the role of giving events going to be in the next 5 years? Where do you see that in terms of the technology evolving to meet the demands that these events are going to have, because we're seeing more, not only more days, but more resources being put into these days because of the success that they're having. So where do you see things going if you had a crystal ball? What would it be like, and where would you want it to be?
Yeah, good question. So one is the use of data. So that's it. Our clients, like I said earlier, are realizing the power of the data that they hold for their community, and also the platform itself. It's a huge asset to have all of these nonprofits already on the platform, vetted, EIN checked against the master file. They're ready to go. And so with events that pop up and need fundraising in a hurry, these platforms are extremely, extremely powerful. Another big trend is leveraging partners around the community more and more. So whether it's business funders, corporate partners, like with the e-cards or the business funder pages that we have, and there's a ton of other creative opportunity around involving corporate and business partners. So we're really working to listen to those needs so the platform can support those types of partnerships. Peer-to-peer is huge. It continues to grow, and so we continue to improve that functionality and make it more readily available, along with trainings, partnering with Rallybound and other neon ecosystem partners to help train nonprofits on how to leverage peer-to-peer technology around the year, but also for the giving events. And then the donor advised fund experience. It's just such a dominant trend in the industry. We want to make sure that we can facilitate that and work with our clients to create a top-notch experience for your fund holders. And then finally, just all of these are both community engagement, but also capacity building for the nonprofits. That's what our clients and partners have been doing for decades in most cases, and will continue to do going forward. So the capacity building in the community is really the dominant thread, and so we're really investing in that. So the Neon Raise integration and other functionality to support that kind of capacity building and learning is top of our minds.
I think the red thread, if we're going to sum this up, that I'm hearing is that if your giving event is siloed from everything else, then there's going to be issues for growth and scale there. And so if we start to think about things being more integrated from a data standpoint, a process standpoint, and just being plugged into other initiatives happening in the community and by the host themselves, I think that's key. I think that's key. Well, TJ, this was excellent. I'm really excited that we were able to have this talk, as well as have a quick cameo from my child at the very end of it. But this was great, and I continue to be impressed with what our hosts are doing, and a big part of that is because we're listening to their requests when it comes to that type of stuff. So thank you very much again, and I want everyone to enjoy the rest of the conference. We got a lot more in store for you. Let's go ahead and dream big, folks.